to African parents, like you're not giving us one example of the advantages, bro. You're not even giving us one. You're speaking for 5 minutes. You're not giving us one advantage, bro.
All right, I'll explain it. So, an advantage that Africans have over Black Americans is that because Black Americans have a history of in bondage here, there is a fear. There's an inherent fear of the revenge that they may be seeking once they get to a certain level. So there is a underlying suppression going on specifically in the ethnicity of Black Americans, not Black people in general, but Black Americans. The ethnicity of Black people in America are suppressed very, very
He's telling the truth. He's telling the truth.
That is funny.
So like the host, his name is Gummy Slave, I think. He's pretty much a troll. Like any American who comes onto the stage, you know, he has like this light humor where he disagrees with them to agree. And he says, you know, they're confused about their history. So he says that to anyone who comes on stage that's American. And Americans haven't caught on to what he's doing. We have to be serious about having a forum about these particular type of politics. Because otherwise, like, you're using the internet just for play. The internet is not to be used just for play. You don't have parental controls on your searches. So you have to be serious about, you know, what it is you're looking up, what it is you're saying, the information you're disseminating. You have to be serious about it. Here's my whole thing about what the guy was saying. We don't have a nation anymore. You know, for Moors, okay, we can say we have a nation, okay. And we have to clean up what the dirty Moors are doing, where they're saying, like, you know, I am Moorish and I can do this and I can do that. It's kind of like how, you know, the newer Moors come in and they have their own seal. You know, they have their own trademark. They have their own copyrights. It's kind of like what they're doing, and they're infusing a culture it just wasn't there before, right? We're talking about a modern age, because whatever we see today, like, we've seen it before in history. So like, they're messing up the movement. And the people who are Moors, they don't even know that they're Moors. Like, a lot of the Moors, you know, it goes that M word again. And we know the M is basically just a hieroglyph for ancient texts. And that could be like a bird or something like that. It could be anything, right? And you have these people, like, they don't know that they're Moors. A lot of Mississippians, you know, they're very dark skinned. They don't know that they're Moors, right? You have a lot of people in Michigan who are very dark skinned and they don't know that they're Moors. We don't really have a nation anymore. And I'm talking about in general politics. And this is where you have people say, we need to find our tribe. We need to find our tribe. This is why tribes are important. To some people, tribes aren't important. But you have people who say, like, we got to find our tribe. Tribes are important. Tribes are important. And the reason they do that is because people are mixing. You have Black women in California mixing with Mexicans. You have Black women in Detroit mixing with Arabs. You have Black people, Black women in Texas mixing with Africans. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with you mixing with a Mexican. Nothing wrong with you mixing with an Arab. But don't cry wolf when government says, because government, they always pull a trick out the bag in the future, right? Don't cry wolf when Supreme Court passes apartheid and they say, you know, the child or this person who is like 70 years old, 60 years old, they have to go back to their father's nation because we're cleaning house in America now. You can't be mad because they mix, right? You can't be mad. And then they start inducting new blood quantums. You can't be mad because that was your mother's decision to mix. And like, you can't lose history. It's kind of like how you see Cape Verde and then you see Africa as a continent, as a mother. it's like Africans don't really look at Cape Verdeans as Africans. You know, they'll say that they're Africans, but they don't really look at them as Africans. You know, if they come inland, they'll probably be called a Bruni or something like that. You know, they are not really Africans because, you know, they're mixed. So, like, you have that going on. Me personally, I know I'm a Moor. I know I'm an African. I only mix with Africans. I only mix with Moors. And when I say Moor, I'm not talking about someone who is 1/8 octoroon, 3/4 octoroon, who are basically saying, you know, I'm a Moor. I'm not talking about that person. It's like the guy who was in Dallas, Texas, I think it was. Was it Dallas? He shot a cop and he was ultimately assassinated because he took out his aggression on law enforcement. This guy here, like, you know, I wouldn't look at him as a Moor. You know, I wouldn't look at him as a Moor if you're just looking at him just face on. I would look at him as, you know, possibly a Mexican. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, he's near the Texas area. We know what's in Texas. El Capitan, we know what's in Texas. So, like, they mixed with Mexicans early on. So you have that going on. Again, like me, I would mix with dark-skinned folks like Sudanese. I would mix with them. I would mix with dark-skinned Cameroonians. I would mix with them. I would mix with dark-skinned Nigerians. I would mix with them because I look like them. And again, like Africa is going through this with themselves. They're going through this. This is honest. This is honest dialogue. You know, this is it's kind of like my own NPR, right? Africans are going through this over there where they're like every new moon, you know, they're rushing over to this country, rushing over to this country, rushing over to this country. So like they'll have like a Rwandan mother and a Nigerian father or something like that. And like you'll have all these different tribes intermixing with one another, and then like the daughter or the son takes on the identity of the father. Americans, they're getting away with that. You know what I mean? They're getting away with that. This is why every man is in a rush to get to America, because they want to impregnate the black woman, because they know something. If you impregnate the black woman, you have an inheritance here. This is why men say, I'm going to go to the four corners of the globe. And this is why Tupac says, you know, he says in that song, and I forgot how the phrase goes, but he says, either he says, you know, women, I don't want to say that word, but, you know, bees, you know, they don't control the world. It's something like that, he said. Tupac says this in a song. And you all know the phrase that I'm talking about. But like, when I'm listening to this discussion, he says bees make the world go round. That's what he says. So like you hear these discussions, right? And you're listening to them. We don't have the government, because a lot of people will say this, like they'll say, then we have the best country in the world. We have a top tier government. They wear suits. They have buildings. They have cabinets. They have all, like, the U.S. Congress doesn't have a better government than the Amazon. They don't. No one acts out in the Amazon, because if you do, you're going to get a poisonous tip. And there's not going to be someone coming to rescue you and so you can get arrested. There's not going to be any of that. You know what I'm saying? And you can see right now they're finding other ways to irresult their politics down there by burning their wildlife and burning their habitat. So take that into mind. This discussion, like, it's old. It's not something that's new. I stand by this when I say there's going to be a new day in Africa. Okay, there's going to be a new day in Africa. Changing a guard is not about having new clothes. It's not about having a new silverware set. It's not about having new glasses in your china cabinet. It's not about any of that, right? It's about who am I aligned with? Who's next to me? Are they healthy? You know, do they know how to farm? That's what it's about. And you have young people in Africa who are inept. They know how to farm. They're running large acres of land and farming. They have horse stables. They have all of this stuff going on for them. They have chickens. They know how to run a farm. They know how to run a plantation. And this is where I think, and it's ultimately going to happen. You're going to have white people. They're going to be looking for Africans for protection. It's going to go back to that guard. And this is already there because it's like the elders, they already see what's going on. They're trying to protect what they already have. They're like, we're neutral in these, like World War III. We're in World War III right now. We're neutral in this war that we have. We can serve as peacekeepers, but like we're neutral. You're not going to see black people on combat zones. Like you're not going to see that anymore. Like we're not going to be on the front lines fighting. We're going to be doing peacekeeping missions. You see this with Africa. Africans are going over to Russia and they're basically setting up shop, and they're donating their services, to help Russia win the war. And then you have Africans going to Ukraine doing the same thing. They're acting as peacekeepers. So like Africans, we're not war combatants. We're not involved in any war. Our slate is clean. Our thing is just going to be this. How can we keep our gene alive? Because we always have a brother or a sister who goes outside the race and does things that, is a shine onto the village. You know what I mean? Like there was a guy popular on YouTube. One of the guys, he had an issue with, the guy bringing a musty back to the village. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't do that. So like me, I don't really have a problem with people mixing. Like do what makes you happy, because ultimately you're gonna find out in the future you're gonna have regrets. You always have that person that's like 80 years old sitting in a rocker and they have a regret, but they never say it. They're gonna have a regret, like, yeah, I shouldn't have did this, I shouldn't have did that, I should have been doing this. They're always gonna have their regret. And a lot of people, they don't have a chance to like see that they do have a regret because they're constantly moving, they're constantly working, and they never have time to sit down. They don't like their living conditions, so they're always worried about how can I get out my living conditions. They're not hearing the voices of people who care for them. And when people are hearing the voices for people who care for them, they're always like, well, I'm going to do what makes me happy. And if this doesn't make them happy, oh, well. This is why I always try to reach out to people, to make sure they're mentally fine. So like with all the backlash that's coming onto Africans about Americans not wanting to be near them and them Americans having a certain xenophobia, like Americans will talk about like how West Africans, like those who, the West Africans like who eat fish. They'll always talk about like, oh, West Africans, they smell like fish. Or they'll say like Europeans, they smell like wet dog or something like that. There'll always be that whole xenophobic type of approach. But it's like, you're a couple generations from being African. You're a couple generations from being European. Like, what are we arguing about? You know what I mean? There's no need to have microaggressions towards people. Control what goes on in your backyard. You don't have a backyard. Control what goes on the bottom of your souls. I always said this, like, if I didn't have a care in the world, I didn't have anything to my name, I would be the healthiest person ever. It's like when you have responsibilities, your health kind of like bags out a little bit. But, your health is always there. It's just a matter of you taking notice of it. You know what I mean? Like right now, I'm doing a fast. I ate some food that I shouldn't have ate. I'm doing a fast now. So like I haven't eaten all day. You know what I mean? So like I have to do that type of thing in order to keep my energy and my cells vigilated. You know what I mean? It goes back to that word vigilante. So I have to keep myself vigilated. What are we doing right now, and what is it? Where is it going to take us in the future? Arguing on panels is not going to get us into the future. It's not going to do that. It's going to get us a knock at the door by the FBI. That's what it's going to do. The FBI is going to come knocking at your door, and he's going to say, "Are you this person?" You know what I mean? And you're going to get interrogated. You're going to get a federal hearing. You're going to get one of those type of briefings. You don't want that. You know what I mean? You don't want that. And this is what I see in Candace Owens. Candace Owens is like a very outspoken person. I don't know what's in her modus operandi. I don't know. But she talks a lot about subjects that obviously someone is putting into her ear. She's not doing all this by herself. She's talking about the Israel war, the Palestine genocide. She's talking about all of that stuff, right? She's talking about Russia. She's talking about Ukraine. She never touches on what's going on in Africa. It's like, depending on where you are in the States, you kind of take on the identity of the people around you. Like if you're in upstate New York, like herself or something like that, you take on the identity of Europeans. You have someone like Anthony Brian Logan, who's in West Virginia. You know, he takes on the identity of Europeans. You have someone like Reginald Kegler, who's from Flint, Michigan. He takes on the identity of rural America. You know what I mean? So like you have all of these dark-skinned Americans, like the planting bed of America, the soil, the history of America. These three people, very influential. And Europeans, they know who these three people are. They have like exuberant personalities. They're the foundation of what you would call American. They're not Africans. You know what I mean? So it's like, how do you have these three people who can be considered pygmies or be considered Highlander, Afro Highlanders, that is, or, you know, Afro Caucasus people who are in the 1400s in America, in the 800s in America, in the 5th century of America? Like, how does that approach go? You know what I mean? Would their politics still be the same? You see what I mean? Like, will their politics still be the same? And this is how you have to approach that situation. You have to say to yourself, do we need to be procreating with one another? Or do we need to be helping Europeans procreate with themselves? Because like Europeans, they're very strategic. I used to look at Reginald Kegler videos back in like 2013, and I would see his best friend Nick. His best friend Nick has a black wife, right? So you'll see them cohabitating, but you never see the rest of the people and how they cohabitate. You know what I mean? Like, who are her parents? You know, how does that approach go? She's a very dark-skinned woman. So like, you're always having people who come to the live, right? They'll come to your live stream. They'll say, oh, you're beautiful. Oh, you're this. Oh, you're that. You know, you're my Valentine. So you're only seeing this with like dark-skinned women. The fair-skinned women, they have this approach where they're mad. You know, they're disgusted. You know what I mean? They're not Angela, because Angela hasn't got her groove back. They're not that person, right? They're in the work office throwing stuff around. The light-skinned one, the one who is like 2 generations from being white. So it's the dark-skinned ones who never see like, what does this all entail? And you know, I often think like, you know, our dark-skinned women, they have to think about this, like, what am I doing with my children's future? Because that's disabling to have a mulatto child and they have to grow up thinking that they're either white or black and they're not sure who they are. That has to be disabling. So you're punished and you're disciplined even before you come out the womb. Because an irresponsible man laid a seed in a woman that was not of his family. You see what I mean? Doesn't mean you don't have to be kind to this person. It just means that there's a whole world that introduces you into the studies of birthing. So you have birthology, which goes along with astronomy and astrology. Birthology, right? You have these are aligned with geopolitics. You can't have a mixed child in the middle of a village, you know, that all looks alike. You know what I mean? Because that's slavery. You see what I mean? Like, that's the beginning of slavery again. This child is going to be treated different than everybody. You know? This is why you look at the Jara and you see, like, who are their people and why do they all look alike? The Jara, they all look alike. They're about 5'3", 5'7", 5'6", very skinny, very, very dark, you know, dark, almost dark or darker as Sudanese people. And they walk around with pouches and arrows, you know, so they're scouting everywhere they go. So if you have the economics of scouting happening, why are you having mixed children? You know, the guy who went to Sentinel Island, he wasn't scouted properly. That's why he lost his life. He was going to the village because he was a mature adult. He was going to this village to give them Christianity. Why are you going to a Stone Age village to give them Christianity? So you can anally rape the children? Is that what you're thinking? The little boys? So you can't have that going on. You can't have the Pope chewing off the child's. You can't have, I don't want to say the Pope because that'll get my video taken down. You can't have the bishop going up to the birth clinic chewing off the child's, you know, foreskin on the penis, saying he's been saved and he's holified and, you know, he's been circumcised. You can't have that happening because that's not a part of the scout. That's not a part of the scouting ritual. It's part of theirs, but it's not a part of the dynamic of being a happy person. You know what I mean? All Africans are happy. They have one another to depend on. They're all happy. They're happy people. Who made the song Happy People? Was it Talib Kweli? We're all happy people. And he also make a song, We're All Lonely People. You see what I mean? I think, like, to be serious about this whole maturated process is that women are going to have to step up and take the throne. They're going to have to get back on to the idea of, you know, leading the nation. You know, they're going to have to sever ties. You know, it's going to be uncomfortable because a lot of us, you know, a lot of people have already made up their mind. They're not black. They're not African. They don't want to be associated with Africans. They don't want to be associated with blacks. Same for both sides. A lot of people have made up their minds. And so, like, you're going to have it's probably going to be like this one day. Like, you're going to have a state like, you know, Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada. It's going to be in a state for all mixed people. Then you're going to have the traditional states where it's just going to be like, you know, more developed than the other states. And these states are going to be for workers and workers' compensation purely based. And then you're going to have other nations where it's just going to be like cabinets that are just like off limits because it's going to be used for like people who are more pushed forth to living off the land, whether it be farming or poaching. So if you have someone that's poaching all the time, they're going to be hunter-gatherers. They're going to be stone agers. You know what I mean? So you can't bother that population. And it's probably people in America who already live like that, and they're living like that on public lands where no one notices that they're doing that. It's people who live underground in some of these tunnels where nobody knows they living under these tunnels, and they look awkward. And awkward is a good thing, so don't get it misconstrued. If you look like a Ninja Turtle, you look awkward, but everybody loves Ninja Turtles. So you have that going on. Let's listen to him.
Bro, everything virus is Africa. You think as an African it's surprising to hear that? That every negative thing they put on Africa, but y'all sit there and say, oh, the white team men love Africa. They love everything about African. They treat African better. Y'all got to look at this thing on
y'all
another
are like
level.
saying something extreme.
Exactly. Let's not forget that it's not even now, bro. Literally, the American Parliament. Literally last year. Hold on. Literally last year, there was a black American general that was advocating for them to invade Niger. You know that country, Mali, that was getting their independence.
So, like, I know these people aren't traditional Africans, and I know these people aren't traditional Indians, because you don't argue over a peace pipe. I don't go on none of these stages. I never been on none of these stages, and I never argue with people. I own a Calumet. And what I do with this Calumet is, I haven't done it yet, but I'll put tobacco in it, or I'll put leaves in it and set the leaves on fire and create a perfume. I don't inhale it. I don't smoke it. I just take in the environment. So like if we're serious about all of this, right, we're not arguing with one another. We're not arguing about our because like if a person argues, they have more likeness than they do differences. Let's just face it. They just don't want to say they don't like who they are. Some people, they don't show their face or anything like that because they don't like who they are. And some people just don't show their face and they're just there for the moment because they have privacy concerns. I don't look at it as a point of where we have to reference everything with a I got you moment. I don't look at it that way. I don't look to seek out battles. I don't like to battle people. I don't like to argue with people. I don't like to, start fights. I don't like to start commotions. I saw enough of that growing up in Chicago. That was my lesson. Living in Chicago, that was my lesson learned. You could lose your life if you say something disrespectful to the wrong person. And this person could be your 5th generation cousin, your distant cousin. Like this person, they'll take your life, if you said something wrong to them. So like, I know these people, they don't come from a background of, having a peace pipe and wanting for your brother what you want for yourself. You go in the store like you a kid, you may be 13, 12. You go in the store, you buy a quarter bag of chips. And your friend says, I want this chip. And you got another quarter in your hand that your mother gave you. And you get that. This is how it was in the early 2000s and the 90s. We would go up to the store and with 50 cents and get 2 bags of Cheetos. I get a quarter bag and he get a quarter bag. If somebody is in the store and they sees us and they like, y'all want some cheese and ground beef on y'all chips? Fine. The butcher is there. Fine. We don't do this anymore. We do not do this anymore. So, these were just quick thoughts about something that happened in the beginning of the video. I don't really remember. I kind of went off on a tangent and just kind of was explaining a different field of things. I try to perpetrate, the right emotion in all of my videos. A sternness, a heaviness, and an involvement in a careful approach, caring and careful. We have to see each other in ourselves. We have to see ourselves in each other. You know, there's that duality. So like, think about this. Great peace, Yakoki.